What's up, all you good fellow fly guys? You know who it is. The Cat in the Hat, your resident fly guy, your chief architect, Michael Angel, StyleArchitects.com, here to help you redesign your frame of mind when it comes to this styling thing. And welcome to another Discourse in Dress, some expressions for your ensemble and some sonnets for your style. Today we're going to be talking all about my 5 most influential black style icons of the past. And this is Black History Month, so I wanted to make sure that I showed homage to all of the wonderful black predecessors who have come before me and have paved the way so that I can do some of the things that I'm doing now. And while it is Black History Month, I do believe that Black history and all history should be studied frequently because, again, we can't know where we're going unless we know where we've been, and if we don't study our history, we're pretty much bound to repeat it again. So these 5 black style icons were influential to me for both life and style reasons, but I would love to hear, who are your black style icons? Who are the most influential people that have come into your life? Whether it's your father, your grandfather, whether it's President Obama, or maybe Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, or Huey P. Newton, or Marcus Garvey. Any one of these different types of people that may have been influential for you based on their style, but also based on their life. Leave me some comments in the comment box and let me know who those people are. Definitely would love to hear that. Now, my first black style icon was Langston Hughes. And Langston Hughes was a writer, he was a poet, and he was around during the Harlem Renaissance era and was one of those observers and the recorders of our history when it came to all of the goings on in Harlem. But one of the things that I really enjoy about Langston was that he was a world traveler. He was an explorer and somebody who was very curious about the world around him. And one of the things that he taught me about life was to be curious, was to explore the world around me and go through all of these different types of spaces so that I would have a better understanding of who I was within the context of global culture, not just American culture. Listen, we're keeping it real. America doesn't always love us, doesn't always respect us, but it's interesting to see that dynamic here versus the dynamic globally, and how much more we are widely accepted in the people that we are dealing with. And so his story, both in his book I Wonder As I Wonder and The Big C, were an inspiration to me in that space. And when it came to his personal style, one of the things that I enjoyed was he was a hat rocker, much like myself, and so I can always appreciate a man who knows how to rock a brim. But his style was also very casually elegant. It was always on point and in alignment with the time, but it still had a certain level of casual elevation to it. Whether he was wearing odd jackets or a casual shirt, just the way that it all kind of came together just seemed to work for him. And so I really appreciated that about his style, and it was something that I incorporated into my own. The second black style icon that was influential to me was Duke Ellington. Now, if you don't know who Duke Ellington is, definitely go check out Cotton Club. You can check out I think Harlem Nights. He was in Hoodlum. He's been represented in all these wonderful movies. But Duke Ellington was the epitome of suave sophistication and seduction.
We will now give you our conception of the most popular composition in recent years, that haunting melody, Stormy Weather.
When he was out and in the mix of that time. And the reason why I like Duke Ellington and why he was so influential to me was because he showed how to be elegant despite what everybody else is doing around you, to still remain true to who you are. Now, Duke was a consummate ladies' man. He was a seducer when it came to social interactions, and you had to respect him because he demanded that through his refinement. Now, his style was also reflective of this. It wasn't anything that was overly expressive or too punched up or too, opulent, but there was an element of sophistication in everything that he wore, whether he was casual or whether he was dressed up or whether he was lounging. There's a great picture of him that I'm still trying to find. If I find it, I'm gonna make sure I post it up here. Was him in this leopard or cheetah print robe. And I was like, yo, if I ever find that robe, I'm getting on some leopard or cheetah print. It was super dope. So I think that that was a great representation of who he was and how he expressed himself. And he taught me in that style should always be smooth. It should always be sensual and allow others to feel you without you necessarily having to say a word. The third black style icon who was influential for me was Mr. Miles Davis. Now, Miles Davis was a jazz musician who came to prominence around the 1940s and 50s, and his style evolution and his musical evolution is something that I think we all can take a page from. Now, Miles Davis, when he first started, was classical jazz musician and was very apt at doing what he was doing in that space, but there was always a certain element of precision and excellence in his execution. And so because of that, one of the things that I really respected about his music was that there was, especially early on in his music, there was a tone of just richness and acuteness that was just spot on. Now, I'm not a music guy. I couldn't tell you anything about the nuances, but there just seemed to always be something that was very spot on early on in his career. And even when it came to style early on in his career, his style was very succinct, and it was very on point and precise with how he was delivering his look. Now, as he began to master his craft, you started to see the artistic elements of who he was begin to bloom. And so in the 70s and 80s, you start to see this more eccentric and eclectic artist, both musically as well as sartorially. And so I think that in both spaces, he was teaching us about the evolution of style after you understand mastery. So once you master something, you can begin to play with it and manipulate it in ways that people may not expect, and that will leave a lasting legacy. But one of the other things that he taught me about life was doing and staying true to who you are. And if they don't deal with it, fuck them, because that's just kind of how he lived. The fourth black style icon who was influential to me was Sammy Davis Jr. Now, Sammy Davis Jr. was an actor, he was a dancer, as well as a singer. And he was around in the 1950s and 60s with the Rat Pack, with Frank Sinatra, with Dean Martin, and was a charming individual and cool in his own right, but didn't really try to rock the boat too much within his own space. He was one of the only black people who was widely accepted in the Las Vegas space when it came to how that whole space was moving at the time, because there were still blacks allowed to play in casinos, but it was still a very segregated environment. But Sammy Davis Jr. was able to maneuver in all those different types of spaces, and his style was never too over the top, but it was still very representative of the space that he was in. When he was in Las Vegas, it was always just kind of cool, calm, and collected, with little punches of stylistic flair that he was putting out. And as he got older, you started seeing him with the oversized glasses, the way that he smoked his cigars, just everything was very subtly unique and drew you into his charm and made him likable. I mean, the smile was engaging and was unforgettable to boot. But he was just a really cool guy, and he helped me pay attention to the fact that sometimes it's not all about me. Sometimes it's about falling in line and playing on a team and understanding your role within that team. And just because you're playing that role on that team doesn't mean that you aren't a superstar in other areas because of how you express yourself. So Sammy Davis Jr. was a cool cat who definitely taught me the art of charm. The last black style icon who was very influential to me was Gordon Parks. Now, Gordon Parks is not only one of the most stylistic influences for me when it comes to style, but he also is one of my favorite photographers. And Gordon Parks taught me all about adventure. it is important for us to remember that we only get one life, so we might as well live it to the fullest. And Gordon Parks did that. If you ever get the chance to watch his documentary on YouTube, and I think it's still there, it's definitely a great life to watch. And his style was kind of representative of that. He was a world traveler, he was an adventurer and storyteller through his visual components. And so whenever he was out, if he was chilling in Harlem, he was a very elegantly dressed man. But if he was in the Alps or in someplace cold, he may have on a beautiful bomber jacket with a turtleneck and his pipe. And he was just a cool dude. The love life that he had, the children that he had, and all the prolific things that they did just reminded me to remember that life is an adventure and it should be lived to the fullest. So those are my 5 most influential black style icons of the past. Now, again, I know that I didn't cover all of the most influential style icons, but I would love to hear your thoughts. Who are some of your most influential black style icons and why? Again, they don't necessarily have to be the most stylish individuals, but how have they been influential in helping you understand more about yourself and potentially impactful on your image just by them being who they are? Leave me some comments in the comment box and let me know those thoughts. Please make sure you give this a thumbs up if you enjoyed the content, and make sure that you subscribe so that you don't ever miss any of the conversations that are being had. Lastly, please make sure that you're following us on all of our social media platforms at Style Architects, and you can also make sure that you sign up for our email newsletter on stylearchitects.com, where we can help you redesign your frame of mind when it comes to the styling thing. And don't ever forget that dress is nothing more than the expression of a man's state of mind, so you should always dress to express. I'll see you next week. Peace. You know that I think Valentine's Day is an overly commercialized holiday. I told you that last week, but let's keep it real. Your girl's probably going to be expecting a gift. If you